Cool. Friday stand-ups. If we're going in order of the squares, Quentin, if you're good with talking now, we can, you can want to report.
I might be in kind of a noisy corner, so I'll go last.
Cool. Yeah, that's fine too. Caroline, how have you been?
Good. I didn't do my homework for the AL income module on Tuesday, so I'm just kind of slowing down. So I have to do it for next Tuesday. Because we were trying to figure out this whole thing about asking people who have non-traditional jobs or seasonal work. So, so really cool thing is that Jeannie talked to our probably our most experienced family law self-help. You know, the court has service centers, self-help centers, and they're going to record their conversations and share them with me. So I think that'd be really cool to hear. And she said the family self-help center service person said that the thing that when she talks to people, the thing that they struggle most with is understanding what gross income is. So that's, that sort of confirms some of what we're thinking about, but she doesn't feel comfortable enough with understanding DoorDash kinds of gig work to even ask. She doesn't know enough about it to even ask them questions. So basically they're on their own for that. So, but I mean, that's interesting, but I think it's very cool that she's going to share recordings of conversations with people, because I think that'll be really helpful. So that's one thing. And then I got really excited about working up some of the logic for some of the stuff in my changing divorce interview, and I got stuck on stupid things like stuff you guys helped me with last week. Like I had this empty question that didn't have anything, and then Bryce, you found some stuff in a interview that I didn't even realize was still there. And then Michelle found I put what I had done, Michelle.
The key for one of your dictionaries was wrong, so it never came up as one of through the
right. And it was a copying and pasting thing. So I copied and pasted something, and then I hadn't changed the value for it. So that's really rewarding to realize. I mean, I spent 2.5 hours before I talked to Michelle trying to figure this out. And I just couldn't. I tried all these different permutations. And so I was so relieved actually to find out that it was the copy and paste issue rather than the logic issue. So that was, so that's where I am. I'm writing. So I want to ask, I'm writing tests now for this third interview. I think it's a fourth interview. Is there a way to so we don't talk about this in a minute, but the question is, when you do the custom organization package, is there a way to test that on its own? Or is the best way to test it is have it installed and then run your own interview packages, run the test on your interview packages? You know what I mean? Can you test the,
If you can clarify, what do you mean by test? I think you said that like that custom organization had been breaking other interviews. You just want to make sure it doesn't break things and like syntax wise is all correct, or you try to test
right. So when I update it, the other interviews are depending on it. So that's why all three of those were broken. I mean, I was relieved also that was the issue, that it was, was missing an LF, but was in my GitHub, but wasn't on the production server. But the thing is, if I'm going to be updating it, is there a way to test that? And Michelle's got an answer.
So there are a couple different ways to approach this. One is to write an interview for your package, for your organization package that just tests the stuff in there.
I get it. Yeah, makes
sense. Like test interview that has one screen and it just includes the other ones.
All the other things. Now,
I
That
think we even
can,
have a file like that. It's called like custom organization demo or something like that.
Right.
so that's one option. Now, that doesn't always catch everything you do because you forget to include this or that, whereas the individual interviews don't
Mhm.
forget to include the things because they're actually using
I
them.
need them. Yeah.
So another way to do it is to schedule tests for the individual interviews and schedule them for once a day or something like that. And that's in the GitHub action. And there is an example of that we can show you.
Oh, right. Is that in
And-
your documentation of scheduled tests or no?
I think it's in the new, it should be in your action.yaml. In not your action.yaml, it's in your workflow file because I included
Oh,
commented out code that would do that. Also, there's Hall Monitor, Quentin says.
There's-
It's true, but it
Oh.
might not give you specific information about what went wrong. That's
Mhm.
true, but Hall Monitor can also be good, yeah. Bryce can talk
Well,
about that because,
I'm trying to think of like when you would use any of those. For what you're doing, I think, or at least from what you're talking about, like doing the separate interview is more likely to catch it before you like push it onto the server. Like both the cron job and Hall Monitor mean you have to have like already like, okay, I made this change and then I install it on the server. We're good to go. And then like you forget about it, and then at some point it will rerun and then it will report the error. And so it's
yeah,
a bit of back and
it'll be
forth. Hall Monitor is still
afterwards.
great, I think, for like making sure just nothing slips through the cracks. But at least of those options, I feel like the making the interview, making like the demo interview in that package and including all of the other, if you include all of the other
Pieces.
like YAML files, it will find errors if there's any syntax error, like any Docker symbol syntax error, and it's like, oh, I don't know how to read this. It will error. And I think the error you had was that issue.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because it will still like check for some of the Mako stuff. It won't like check logic issues, and so if it like tries running some Python code
Right.
that then runs into an error, it will break. But normally you aren't going to catch those, or yeah, normally you would only catch those if you like ran through the entire interview, which I guess
Right.
like the only thing that covers that is a cron job, which is also good, but like
Yeah.
at least
We may not
my view
have
of is
too
until we have
many-
better tools, the
yeah.
best way to do it is do the demo interview and include a lot of it.
Right.
It'll be the simplest. You shouldn't be adding, like, I don't think you'll be adding too many more YAML files, like new YAML files to your custom organization. And so the chance that you add something new and it's no longer being tested in that demo file is pretty low.
Mhm.
But
And I mean, it could be an umbrella that includes the other YAML files that you add, so it could test them all at the same time anyway.
yes.
Are you talking about, when you say the YAML files, could I include the YAML files from the interviews? Is that what you're saying? Or
No,
you're
for
using YAML
example,
files in the custom organization package?
in the custom organization
Yeah, yeah.
package, you don't want a
Mhm.
circular dependency.
No.
But yeah, you could, for example, if you had multiple YAML files you were using, you could test them all at once just by
Mhm.
only doing those.
Yeah, I'm making this a bit more concrete. Like
Oh.
this is our custom organization, like the mass access stuff.
Right. Uh-huh.
You go, we don't have one, but if you wanted to, you could have you would just add a new
Demo.
like demo, like mass access demo that would then just include mass access, include feedback.yaml, include eval account interview.
Right.
She might not be able to include this one because I think this one is a separate. This one is like a main runnable interview.
Mhm.
But the other two things you would include and you would just run. And this one would be one that you could also just, does this load? If it loads, it works, sort of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'd like that
Yeah.
just to make it a bit more concrete, what
Yeah.
you would actually do and which
Right.
goals you would have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful because and also I was a big relief to understand that when the dispatch, when the list wasn't displaying the way I thought it should, that that's an indication that one of the interviews is broke, or those interviews are broken. So I had no idea what to even do about that, because but now I know. Thank you.
Cool. Cool. That's good to know. Is there anything else you got?
That's me.
Cool. Michelle, do you have any updates or anything?
I did have things, some of them might be more like deep dive things, but where is my things that I did? Right. Okay. A thing that I'm stuck on with the command line sources thing is do we keep backwards compatibility with Alekiln in the playground? And if not, which gets the breaking change, right? Which gets the major version change, and should it really be both of them? It would be a bit messy to keep the old stuff, but I think it might be worth it.
Yeah,
So, because I took that out and then it occurred to me, yeah. So just if people have opinions on that.
Can you tell us a little bit more, Michelle? Are you wondering if it's okay to break people's expectations of how killing in the playground works right now? Is that
Not
good-
expectations, just it breaks. Just like the current version of Alekiln will break with the next feature release of the current version of Alekiln in the playground will break with the latest feature release of Alekiln itself.
and it could be
Unless-
fixed by people installing a new version of killing in the playground?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, that's fine. It's kind of an experimental new thing that only a few folks are using. I think it's going to be really helpful, but you can just tell directly us and Michael Hoffrichter, right?
Yeah, I
Agreed.
think that's who's using it. And if that's the case, then the code can be cleaned up a little, and that will be nice.
That's not, Matt wants to use it, but they haven't set it up. Matt and Vivian haven't set it up yet. They haven't started it yet, but it's on their, to-do list.
Yeah, but it's just on the server. You just have to reinstall it on the server. So as long as
Oh, yeah.
one person updates the server, then everyone else
Right.
would be good.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the people that need to know, who's already installed it, need to know they need to update it. But it doesn't, I'll just say it doesn't matter for them because they haven't installed it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is it ready to update now? Is that what you're saying? Or just you have to do something more to it?
I have a PR. So I have two PRs, and they both should be merged at exactly the same time, and then everybody should update everything, and then it should all work just fine.
All right.
But yeah, it's in the wings. It's not, I haven't implemented either one yet. Wanted to have this conversation. Okay, so maybe I'll just do the breaking change and
clarify, that's the only, if I'm remembering it correctly, it only breaks Kiln in the playground, like the defaults still work for Kiln in the GitHub actions, right? Is that what?
yes,
doing?
nothing
Yeah,
else
okay.
breaks. It's just Alekiln in the playground because it has to send the command line arguments now. They're required. We control all of that, but we
I thought we
control
had-
Alekiln in the playground.
Yeah.
So we're sending the sources, right? We're
Yeah,
sending the location of the sources folder now in the command line, but that only works with the new Alekiln in the playground, right? Like the old Alekiln in the playground doesn't do that. And so if that's a thing we require, then that breaks the old Alekiln.
but that's what I'm saying. If it is it required? It's required for the playground, but like
It
the
is required for
argument
the
itself.
playground.
Well, no,
Because-
the argument itself isn't required, right? That's what I was, because like,
Yes,
if
it won't
it's
break
not as-
anything else.
okay, sorry.
Because
I think
everything else,
I'm just confused on what you meant by required in that case. Because
I mean,
yeah.
the playground, from the playground, it is required because it has a different path to the sources folder. The default path won't handle it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, the
Just
default
making sure,
path
just
can
making sure I was
handle everything
understanding
else.
how you
Yeah.
had decided on doing it. So
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. So the other question was, Michael brought up an interesting point, which is that you can't do the Alekiln action from a pull request, because the pull request, the branch ref is not the correct thing to pull in to docassemble. The name of the branch is not what you get out of the branch ref. So yeah, here, I'll show you what you get from the branch ref. This is the branch ref, and what you need to actually do to pull.
You're
the
not
thing-
sharing your screen, Michelle.
It's not, it's in the Zoom chat.
Oh, sorry.
And the second thing is what you need to do in your repo in order to get the pull. That should be pull 50/head. Right, so that's what you would need to do for the pull. And so docassemble doesn't know that, and ALKiln doesn't know that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, is that already an issue?
That was an issue I made recently, which is similar because it doesn't work for tags. And so when I was
Right.
like making a lot of releases last week, and when I would
Mm,
tests would work fine on main, I'd make the release, the GitHub action would then fail because it's trying to pull from something that doesn't exist.
yeah, actually, I think assembly line has code in the action that prevents tags from being tested. That's how we were handling it before.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I looked up all this because I was confused on what was happening, because it's on some of the things, some of the repos, but it's not on all of the repos that I have added Kiln stuff to. Like we
Yeah.
hadn't been skipping those. And so
So I don't like either one. The question is, what should be handled by docassemble and what should be handled by ALKiln, right?
so there's a different GitHub like variable that we can use that should be the
Not the
thing,
GitHub
right?
ref.
Yes, there's ref name, which is like just the name. I have to look into it because I do know GitHub does weird things with merge, like pull requests and the merge stuff. Which is I think was Michael's issue, is that it's not like it works fine on pull requests, but when you set up pull requests in a specific way, Kiln or GitHub then is not really operating on that same branch that the pull request is on, but operates on some like it merges that with like other changes you have in master and main and makes a new branch, and then it just runs that the action on this weird new branch that doesn't exist anywhere else, which is why docassemble is confused by it. And so we'd have to check and see if ref name works for that as well.
So ref name says it pulls in the branch or tag, so it's still doing the tags.
Well, we do the tag name.
It'll do
Installing
the
with the tag
name.
name works.
Works? Oh, okay.
It works for docassemble because all docassemble does like git clone, git checkout that specific branch name, and if it is a branch name, then it works. GitHub uses things that aren't actually branch names, like ref/pull/50/merge is not a branch name. The branch name is
Yeah.
whatever you made the PR with. That's the part I'm not sure about. I don't know if it decides to give that a temporary name that works when you run that action or not.
Okay.
But at the very least, there are might be some things we can do there to avoid.
I swear I
that.
looked for something like ref name for hours in the past. But that's what coding is. That's what
It could have been a
that's
new
what
thing.
fresh eyes are for. Maybe it's a new thing, but
They're
it
always adding a
always
bunch.
seemed to me like it should be a thing that exists.
They're always adding stuff for like the actions, and it's
Okay.
constantly changing. So
We can try ref name and try running a few tests and see if that is sufficient for pull requests, etc.
Yeah.
That would
at
be
the very least,
fun.
I think there are some options in that issue that I mentioned that like we could pursue, and we'll
Awesome.
see if it fits. And I can add a note that we should also make sure it works with stuff like ref, school, merge, etc. So
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So maybe can be on our list of things. Okay, that's me.
cool. David, how are you doing? I am running the meeting.
I noticed. I was like, this is going very well. I'll just sit and watch. Main thing is that 10X has gotten phase 3 funding, which is one part of the stuff that we were looking at. I don't know if I mentioned that last week. I don't know if we knew. I don't think we did.
No, we didn't know. That was just the this week
Yeah,
news.
that was just this week. The week is seeming really long. And also we'll know about that. I think I mentioned this on the last call. We'll know about, or maybe this was only a this week thing too, but it was at the beginning of the week on the other meeting. We will know about SJI's funding, hopefully shortly after their board meeting on Monday. So fun administrative stuff.
Isn't that like big news? You said it like it was small news.
Well, because they
But-
haven't made the decisions yet, well, except for 10X.
But 10X has
big
made
news
a
already.
decision.
Yes,
It is big
right?
news, but I haven't met with them yet. And I'm,
And you have to get all of the, you need to
yes,
get
all the
three,
pieces have to
right?
sort of get
Yeah,
firing.
so it's great that there's a third, but it's still like anticipation, isn't it?
Yes, well, it's, I mean, so
So-
10X is
But
great,
the
but
10X could be independent, right? Like it.
yeah, the
it will
10X could be
happen
independent.
regardless of the other funding.
That would be terrific.
The
That
10X is
sounds
independent.
very
But
exciting.
I have a meeting with them next week to figure out what our details look like, which will be interesting because I know they also, they also like working with the federal government. So I'm worried the tax court's going to suck all the oxygen out of the room. I got to make sure that they don't just work for the tax court.
Mhm.
Okay.
But that being
So-
said, they've been very nice to us, and we played a major part in their pitch. So I'm just being anxious.
By the way, sorry.
Mhm.
That just reminds me, there's like a really interesting request for information from the UK government about their equivalent of welfare benefits. They're looking to evaluate a new form system. Been in touch with Adam Weiner at Swansea about it. And
Wow.
I think that might be really relevant to them to see if they are considering to assemble for some of the forms work in the UK government, knowing that the US government is investigating and supporting it in some way.
It's interesting because
So, might be good to see if we can connect that or bring it up. I mean,
they might already. They might. It was. I have to check back and talk to the next folks, but they had made some noise about the fact that there were already. They were sort of following behind the UK and Canadian governments in regards to form stuff, and that they already had some infrastructure. But I don't know what the. That's worth noting. That's good to know. That's good to know. I'll bring it up.
I don't
in
know
my
if that's
talk
just the
next
web
week.
design system in the UK. Like, I'm not sure. They don't seem to have real form stuff. They have rules as code stuff in Canada that Jason Morris was involved in and Piet Andrews was involved in.
Yeah, it
It
might
wasn't
be.
so centered on building general form infrastructure.
Yeah, it might be a question of sort of government services online as opposed to particular toolings. But I'll if you have some links or something, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up with them next week when I meet. Be like, hey, did you guys know about this? And if they didn't, and I can figure out if they know about each other. That's the thing to figure out. Cool. Yeah, that's me.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. Quentin, are you in a slightly quieter place at this point?
I managed to go through a quiet place into a noisy place because my wife asked me to pick up a tomato. But I'll just go anyway. There's not a lot to update. This was a busy week with class prep. But working through the backlog of issues on the assembly line. Had a nice productive meeting on Monday, coding meeting to with next steps for doing some of the court forms online. Launch in Next.js. So that's not there anymore, although I haven't had time on my calendar to just sit down and code for a few days. And we'll be using the Weaver with our clinic next week. So I'm trying to see if I can scope the change to allow you to use the I'm feeling lucky button and then rearrange fields to new screens. To see if I can scope that so that it is safe to add before students use it next week. I'm not sure it will be, but that was kind of one of the main things in the Weaver that's not functional when you use the I'm feeling lucky mode. So that may be something I take on and try to see if we can test it and launch it next week. We'll see. I think that's it for me there.
Love, I'm feeling lucky.
Cool. And my only updates is that I'm doing a lot of e-filing refactoring. I had a huge ECF5 PR that I tried to split up into actually understandable commits and clean it up a bit more. I've been merging parts of it at a time. I'm like maybe a little over halfway through. I should be able to finish it today. And still monitoring the appeals court stuff. There was at least one particular bug that I found which is just an issue with production and things being different but we weren't specifically with the housing courts, but we weren't able to test with the housing courts because we didn't have a test docket. So I did all this extra testing on stage, and I was asked UPS court a few times, being like, "Hey, can we have an extra housing court docket?" And they were like, "No, we don't have any testing dockets that we could file into, and or use, and I don't want to use any sort of real thing." So we just missed it, and I pushed a fix for that really quickly on Wednesday, and I'm still waiting for people to use it. I haven't got any additional error notifications or anything. I'll probably go through logs again today. That's it. I'm doing a bunch of e-filing stuff.
Cool. Do we know if we've had any completed filings once we went live?
I haven't heard from Paul on that. I think he said he would let us know when he got some. Which is what I'm like. It's been a few days now, and I'm suspicious, and so haven't had anything break, but also haven't heard from Paul, and so I'll look through things and maybe ask him again, maybe next week. But for sure, we'll have a few people try to go through it over the weekend. I think that's generally the pattern. A lot of people late at night and on the weekends when we are not monitoring things. So
of course, that's
yes.
of course.
That's it.
So as Quentin observed the other day, it's one of those things where we hope that I don't want to hope that anyone's in a situation where they have to file something, but it would be really nice if someone filed something.
It would be. I would like to know that this works, because we have no way of actually testing on production, and everything is so different between stage and production that why is there a stage? So
good question. We should talk more about that. All right. Cool.
Cool. I think that's